Have you ever wondered if doing the right thing in business is, well, catching? Today we're diving into this incredible discovery about how good business practices can literally spread across the globe in ways you probably never expected.
So let's start with a really simple question. When a company decides, hey, we're going to be more sustainable, does that decision just stop at their own front door? Or could that one good choice actually ripple outwards and influence a whole bunch of other companies?
Well, to figure this out, researchers mapped out the absolutely massive, complex web of companies that trade with each other all over the world. And when they got it all down on paper, something really strange and, really powerful started to emerge. What they found, using data from 2021, is that companies with high environmental, social, and governance scores, those are the green clusters you see, they aren't just scattered randomly. Nope. They are all grouped together in these dense, interconnected hubs. It's almost like goodness has its own gravity. Okay, so this is definitely not a coincidence. It's actually hard evidence of something scientists are calling the ESG ripple effect. It's this invisible force connecting businesses, and right now, we're going to unpack exactly how it works.
First things first, to really get this, you need to see the global economy for what it truly is. It's not just a bunch of separate companies. It's a massive tangled web called a global value chain. Honestly, just about every single product you own is the result of one of these chains.
And it all works like a big chain reaction, right? A customer buys something from their direct supplier, but that supplier, of course, has their own suppliers. That's a second layer. These links can go on, spanning dozens of companies and crossing multiple continents, all just to make one single thing.
And this right here perfectly illustrates the core idea. Think of it like dropping a stone in a pond. One company's commitment to high ethical or environmental standards creates ripples, and those ripples of good practice then spread out through the entire network, from that first customer to their supplier, and then to that supplier's suppliers.
But here's where the research uncovered something really fascinating, a little twist in the story. It turns out, not all of these ripples are created equal. Different kinds of good actually travel through this global network in very, very different ways.
So the study got specific. It asked, does the type of goodness matter? Is there a difference between a commitment to cutting carbon emissions versus, say, a commitment to fair labor practices? Does that change how the goodness spreads?
And the answer was a huge yes. It turns out a company's high environmental standards, those jump across borders with no problem, influencing their international partners. But their social standards, things like workers' rights and safety, those have a much, much stronger impact on suppliers inside the same country, where things like culture and local reputation are really closely linked. And hey, this isn't just a hunch. The data from a huge firm-level study totally confirms it. This chart shows a statistically significant positive effect for each type of ripple in its own space. So, the takeaway is pretty clear. Environmental ripples go global, while social ripples tend to stay local. Okay, so we've got this really powerful natural effect happening, but the story doesn't stop there. What happens if you add a catalyst? What if we could find a way to deliberately turn these little ripples into massive waves? I mean, if this positive spillover is already happening all by itself, is there a way to supercharge it? Can we take these small passive ripples and turn them into powerful, intentional waves of change? Well, the answer, it turns out, lies in the world of sustainable finance, and specifically in these really powerful tools called ESG bonds. These are special bonds where companies raise money, but, and this is the key part, that money is specifically set aside for projects that will have a positive impact. Now, here's why that is a total game changer. To meet the really strict rules of these bonds, companies can't just clean up their own act. They often have to demand that their suppliers also improve their ESG performance. It creates this powerful, top-down pressure for good. And the effect is just dramatic. Take a look at this. The chart shows that when a company issues an ESG bond, its own score improves a ton compared to the average. But look what happens next. The scores of its direct suppliers also go up, and even the suppliers of those suppliers see a positive boost. It's incredible. So the critical point here is that this financial boost, this one decision, pushes that positive ripple effect at least 2 layers deep into the global value chain. One financial choice at the very top creates real, measurable, positive change way, way down the line.
So what does all this mean? Why does this invisible force, supercharged by finance, actually matter to all of us? It is so much more than just an interesting economic pattern. It's basically a potential roadmap for real, systemic change.
The research report itself gives us the answer right here. It says that by strategically using tools like sustainable finance, we don't have to just sit around and wait for good behavior to spread on its own.
we can actively amplify these ripples to speed up our global shift to a greener, fairer economy.
And you know what? There are clear things we can actually do. Policymakers and central banks can really foster this effect by encouraging big companies to issue these bonds. And, just as important, by making it way easier for all companies, especially the smaller ones who often get left out, to get their hands on these powerful financial tools.
So the big takeaway is this. A single company's commitment to sustainability, especially when it's boosted by the right financial tools, isn't just a drop in the ocean. It is the start of a wave that can lift the standards of an entire industry. Good practices aren't isolated acts. They are all nodes in a network, just waiting to be activated.
And that leaves us with one last really crucial question. Knowing that our choices, what we buy, where we invest, what we demand from the companies we support, knowing that all of that creates these ripples, we have to ask ourselves, in this interconnected world, what kind of ripples will we choose to create?